for you. It's Keith David, everybody.
Hello.
How is everybody?
Great.
Hey, I like to hear
Yes.
that. Great. I love that.
And how are you?
If I were any better, I would have to take something for it.
It is so great to see you again. Thank you
Yes,
so much for
indeed.
being here. I wanted to start by saying last night, getting ready for bed, flipping through the channels, the first thing that came on was an episode of Rick and Morty that you were on. And I was like, okay, this is great. It goes to commercial, change the channels. There's Something About Mary was also on. So you were all over last night. All of your projects are everywhere.
Maybe I'll get a residual.
But the first thing I actually wanted to ask you about, recently we lost the wonderful Chadwick Boseman, and I know you got to work with him on 21 Bridges, and you both have in common being Black Panther, and so I wanted to know about your time working with Chadwick Boseman.
Well, he was a wonderful human being, and he was really a wonderful actor. So it was, it was my honor to work with him. And it was great to share that moment in time, because it was probably almost exactly 20 years since the time I played the Black Panther, and he did. And at the time, I asked the creators and the writers, we should make this a series. Why don't we make a series about the Black Panther? And we talked about it, but timing wasn't ready. People, it was a wonderful idea. Obviously, it just took 20 years in the making.
And he did such a phenomenal job. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, from what I've researched, I saw that one of your favorite projects to work on was gargoyles.
When I grow up, I want to be like Goliath.
Was there anything in particular that made it a favorite for you?
Well, I'm a classicist. I love elevated text. I love Shakespeare. And heightened language. And the creator, Greg Weisman, created this world where Shakespearean languaging existed. We start out, in centuries before in Scotland, and that's how people spake at the time. So it was right in my wheelhouse, and I loved that about it. And as a matter of fact, right before we ended, in the third season, we got a new producer, and he came in and he wanted, and because he was new, he wanted to exert himself and have his input. And so suddenly, Goliath was saying things like, I didn't, and using contractions. And I said, in 3 years of doing this, I have never used a contraction. So I'm not going to start now. So, he wouldn't say that. That's not how he would put it. So I didn't. And that's how that went. Now, we ended after 3 seasons. But what 3 seasons? We had reunions for 15 years after that.
You mentioned you love Shakespeare's works. Is there a favorite work of his that stands out to you?
There's a podcast called Play On, and I just played King Lear, and I can't wait to do it for real.
Incredible choice. So obviously you have many abilities. Singing is definitely one that you possess, and so you got to, in Princess and the Frog, showcase your vocal abilities with Friends on the Other Side,
Exactly.
which is one of the greatest songs from any Disney film. So can you tell us a little bit about the process of recording the song?
The song is not as simple as it appears. There are lots of little interval things and tonality things, which it's Randy Newman So it's got lots of little subtleties in there, which I just absolutely adored. When I read the script, and of course it's Disney, you do not get to read the script. You do get to some sides and what you're going to do. And when I saw who he is, I was like, oh God! First of all, I know I can play this. But in my imagination, I don't know if any of you, some of you are old enough to know, but if you remember an actor named Jeffrey Holder, and I knew if Jeffrey were younger, he would have been Dr. Facilier. So I went in wanting to do my best Jeffrey Holder. And one of the things that made me know I wanted to be an actor was Danny Kaye in Hans Christian Andersen. It's a wonderful movie. It's a wonderful movie. And so, since it inspired me so deeply, for my audition song, I brought my own pianist, and I came in singing a song from Hans Christian Andersen. And I got the job.
All right, so before we do go to questions from y'all, I also wanted to ask about the fight scene with Roddy Piper in They Live.
What would you like to know?
Everything. I want to know, obviously him being a wrestler, did you find maybe the choreography was more complicated for him, and what was that like for yourself?
Complicated for him? He taught me a lot about how to sell it, and I was already a certified stage fighter. So I knew how to do it for the stage. Now, and it's slightly different for the movies because the angles are different. And sometimes the way you set up punches are a little bit different, for the camera than you would for the stage. You have to leave room. The camera is right here, wherever it is, and from that angle, just got to look like it from that angle. And the reality is, the camera could be in the position where that speaker is, and I can be this far away and throw a punch. As long as you react, I don't ever have to come in contact. I don't have to be anywhere near you. But if you react in time, then it looks like the hit. So I learned a lot about that, and it was fantastic. Roddy taught me a lot about how to sell that. And we had a great time. We rehearsed for 2 weeks. And he never hit me, but I hit him a couple of times.
All right, so whatever questions you guys may have for Keith, now is your opportunity to ask. Do we have any? Oh, I saw.
Yes.
Yes.
Getting the camera ready. Yeah. So one of the recent things that you've been in was Jordan Peele's Nope.
Yep.
I'm very curious how that experience was, considering he's like basically a modern auteur, which are seems like a dying breed lately. So how was that experience?
It was fantastic. I only wish that I was in it more.
Yes.
It was a wonderful experience. It was a great character. Great character. Can you imagine? I'm the first, not only the first black man, but the first guy to be, to be on camera riding a horse. That's a phenomenal distinction. And I think it set up a whole wonderful premise for the movie. Yeah. Like I said, and it's not even a regret, but my only wish is that I was in it more. I bet you wish I was in it more too.
You were in one of my favorite films of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Woo! My first movie.
And the question that has plagued probably a lot of people at the end, are you an alien? Are you a thing?
Listen, it's so if you think so. As far as I'm concerned, it wasn't me. And, over the years, you hear all these theories about everybody's got something to say about it.
Oh, yeah.
But the simple fact is, how many of you have ever sat in front of a fire? Anyone ever sit in front of a fire? Has anyone ever sat in front of a fire when the weather was cold? So, just, pure and simply, scientifically, if it's cold enough for you to see your breath while you're talking, right? That's because you're cold, and the air around you is also cold. That heat from your body hitting that cold air causes the smoke.
Oh, yeah.
We're sitting in front of a fire. The wind shifts, and while he's talking, the wind is blowing away from him in my direction. When I'm talking, the wind is also coming in my direction. So is the heat. So it makes sense that there would be no, or certainly not as much smoke coming out of my mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. No one has. I just offer that to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, wow, no worries. You're in one of my favorite TV shows, Community.
Yes.
Sean McHale, Ken Jeong. And you did a podcast in 2020, which I really appreciate. Doing the podcast, it was very therapeutic during that time. What was it like working with Joel McHale and the entire cast community and doing that podcast?
I love the question, what was it like to go to work? I mean, I'm an actor. And one of the things I like to do is work. When someone says to me, what do you like to do more? TV, radio, voiceovers? I like to work. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, in each genre, yes, the challenges are, there are some specific challenges that are different. But fundamentally, I'm acting. So that's what we do. And that's what I love to do. That's my calling. That's what I want to do. And I love it. That's my ministry.
Thank you.
Yes.
Me? Yes, thank you, sir. Sorry. I actually have a two-pronged question, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Thank you, sir. Keith, when you first got rehearsing and what's it called? Sorry, I'm nervous. When you first
Breathe.
got on,
It's okay. It's all good. No one's gonna bite. Well, I don't.
When you first went on the set of the thing, what were you expecting? And what was your reaction to the Rob Bottin, what do you call it, prosthetics?
Rob
and monster-
Bottin.
Bottin, thank you, sir. Rob Bottin, prosthetics and monster. What was your initial reaction when you first saw all that in action?
First of all, it was my first movie. So every day was a thriller minute. I mean, who knew what to expect? I didn't know what to expect. Wasn't even sure I'd know how to act in the movie. My life had been in the theater. But what I have learned consequently is good acting is good acting. It doesn't matter whether it's the stage or a film or behind the mic. It has that universal kind of destiny. We share something. The difference for me is the use of energy. I wouldn't play a 500-seat house the same way I would play a 1,500-seat house.
That's true.
Right? So, when I first came on the soundstage, being my first experience, the ceilings were 30 feet high, and I just didn't know how to behave. So we had tables like this set up, and there were actors around every table, and there were some actors who were talking like, well, if this is the thing here, I don't know what, they call this the thing, and I'm sitting across the table going, I can't hear it. What is that about? And so, Charles, I was the strong silent type. So, one word answers, it's like, hell no. And I would, because I wanted to make sure that I was heard, because that's what we do in the theater. You want to make sure that the back row hears you. And so, that contrast was kind of startling for most of them. So Richard Masser, who's also from New York, a New York stage actor, he took me to lunch. He and another couple of guys. I think Tommy Waits, who had gone to Juilliard with me, and Joel Polis. It was also his first movie. We all went to lunch, and Richard said, "Hey man, you're doing fine. You don't have to project something." And it was a lesson I had to learn. I mean, I'm constantly learning it now, because it's part of it's an innate part of me is that kind of largesse and largeness. So I mean, I have to remember to, sometimes you can pull it down. Now in my mind, it's easier to tone it down than it is to necessarily get it up. There are many film actors who don't make the transition to stage easily, because of that kind of dynamic. You're used to not projecting, not speaking, and sometimes I've been on a set where the sound man will ask the actor, "Can you speak a little bit louder?" And it's no, that's going to destroy my reality. Well, I mean, to each his own, but I offer, if your reality is disturbed by speaking loud enough to be heard, I have to question your sense of reality. Because the truth of the matter is, if we're doing a scene, whether it's a movie or the theater, now of course, yes, you are sitting right next to me, but if I start talking like this, and unless your next line is, "Huh? What?" It is equally as unreal, as untruthful, to speak in a decibel that makes you have to. If you really want to be understood, if you have something to say, if you want to communicate something, you communicate in a decibel that the person whom you're talking to can understand, because you need something from them. You want something from them. And you want to make sure that you're being understood. That's the way we do in life. So, I mean, I don't want to get caught acting. When I'm acting, I just want to find the reality of the moment. And that's what I play, those circumstances.
Moment to moment.
The moment to moment reality. That's just that. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, because in life, if you walk around, it's like something's wrong with that person.
This is a master class, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Do you have a voiceover role that's like closest to your heart?
A voiceover role closest to my heart. Several. Spawn. Gargoyles. I have done several documentaries that are especially, I just finished doing Muhammad Ali, which I had wonderful. I'm coming out. I think it's called An American Story, and it's a book that I read. It's a book that I read that is about. It was written, I think, in the '60s, and it's about a teacher who comes to this classroom to take over, and she appears as a very attractive young woman, but her agenda is wanting to indoctrinate these children, with their philosophy, which is quite fascist. But the appearance is that, oh, she's so sweet, she's so nice. And the original teacher is an older woman who's very strict, and discipline. She's a disciplinarian, and this young woman comes in. Oh, would you like donuts? I can get you candy, and appeals to the kid's sense of nothingness. And they are pleased with that. And by the end of the book, we see that there's an agenda there. And really, so it becomes about how do you use, you use children's vulnerability against them. And that's in fact how you even get to the parents. Yeah. So we have to be very cognizant of that. Now that we live in a time politically where, we have internet and media, and we see every day how there's somebody